because we're sitting on the porch enjoying our Miller High Lifes, and then all of a sudden you see something. You're like, "What?" You're like, "What?"
That?
I was like,
"What's that?"
You're like, "What was that?" I was like, and then you saw it again. You're like, "What? What the heck? What was that?" Do you love the outdoors?
Do you love to travel?
Do you love finding hidden treasures in towns all over the USA? Hi, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Craig, and welcome to Treasures of Our Town, the podcast that takes you on a journey to explore the unique and charming towns scattered throughout the United States.
Join us as we venture into some of the country's most intriguing destinations, uncovering hidden gems and local secrets along the way.
On today's episode, Josh, we're going to rock your socks off in Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland rocks! Cleveland rocks! Cleveland rocks! This will answer the question, does Cleveland in fact rock?
Well, we can answer the question in this episode, but you've got to stay to the very end to listen to our opinions of whether actually Cleveland rocks or not.
This is true. We know that Cleveland is sticky. Do you know what I mean by that?
For you from Minnesota.
Well, that I wasn't talking about weather because you know what? We don't talk about the weather on this podcast. I was talking about the World Duct Tape headquarters.
Oh, of course you were. I said that I didn't actually. I was there with you. I was dragged there by you, but I still didn't make the connection.
We'll get that. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that as well.
But Craig, it's been a week since we've been together.
I know, right?
And can you believe it? You missed me? Oh, that's so
of course.
That's so nice. Even though we've been talking still all week.
Exactly.
But can you believe this? 2 episodes on Ohio in a row.
I know. They must have done something right. They must have done something right.
We've never done that before, I don't believe. I don't believe we've ever done 2 podcasts in a row in the same location. Well, not the same location.
Well, same state.
Same state, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it was very different locations. They're like 2 hour and a half apart.
Yeah.
From the 2, so yeah.
So this episode is sort of the bookends of the Seneca episode, which was last week.
So, it really is. So, yeah.
So I encourage you, if you didn't watch the Seneca County pizza episode, which was 2 weeks ago, you should first listen to the beginning of this episode.
Yep.
Then listen to... Pause, yeah.
Yep.
And then listen to the Seneca one, and then come back and listen to the rest of this episode if you want to get a sense of like the whole trip in its entirety.
Our trip, exactly. Our entire. That's very true. That's very true. I love it. So we landed in Cleveland, going back a week ago.
Yes. So what brought us to Cleveland in the first place? Because we were invited to do the Seneca Pizza Trail tour.
Yeah.
And I realized there could have been several different airports that we flew into. There were some options, Craig.
Yeah, there was.
We could have gone to Detroit.
Yeah.
Which actually, I'll be real, would have been a cheaper flight for me.
Possibly. It would have been probably more expensive for me. At the same time, is it really worth our life? Because I've heard about Detroit being on the top 5 of the most dangerous locations in the US.
Oh, I don't believe any of that stuff, but...
TikTok says it.
You never know, Craig. Detroit might come a call in, and they're going to be like, "Hey, you guys need to see the treasures of this town."
This is true, and if they did come a calling, then I would go there. I would risk my life, Josh. Yeah. Risk my life for this podcast.
Yes, when I saw that Cleveland was there, was the other option. In the back of my mind, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is where the Christmas Story movie house is."
Yeah, I didn't even know until you told me.
Yeah.
So,
and I was thinking, I like to get ahead of things on my YouTube channel. And I was like, Craig, I can get my Christmas episode in the can, just like my Halloween episode is already in the can.
Is ready to go, almost. I haven't done the editing yet, but yeah, almost.
Yeah. So I am excited about that because my Christmas episode is ready to go, and it's going to be at the Christmas Story house. And guess what? Because you listen to this podcast, you know that in advance. So, Craig, let me just, can I, before we talk about landing in Cleveland, I think it's good that maybe they get a little personal like background of like.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So my work gave me the whole week off prior. Did I tell you that? The whole week.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, because you've been doing renovation.
Yeah, and that's I spent my whole week off working, renovating my house. I put wood floor down in my living room. I'm looking at it right now. It's beautiful. We took a wall out. Mm-hmm. So this trip was sort of like a reward. I didn't think that I was going to be able to go on a trip, but this came up and we got 4 days. So
yeah, exactly. Now I will say this as well, because I follow both yourself and your lovely wife on Instagram, etc. And when Josh says we, he pretty much means Tammy and some of me, because on her Instagram channel, Josh, it was all about her and her father doing the flooring and lifting the flooring, and you were out walking Goliath, getting your monthly streak.
Somebody's got to walk the dog
and making TikToks.
Yeah. Somebody's got to walk the dog, and right now as well, I'm doing the Wheel of Challenges geocaching streak.
Yes,
and basically it's finding the geocache every day for a month. So.
Yeah,
that's I got priorities, Craig.
Exactly, that's true. That's true. And my priorities were I was only doing the 7-day streak, and that's completed now. So I'm going to get 2 out of the 3 souvenirs.
Now
I'm happy with that.
You're just relaxing.
I'm happy with that. Yeah. I've got too much to do. Plus, I've been crook, Josh, for the last few days.
Does that mean sick?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, a bit sick. So just a cold. That's it. So I think I got it flying back from Cleveland because of my flight was cancelled originally. And then I had to rebook I got 2 flights now instead of the 1, so I wasn't a direct, and I had to go through DC, and
you were exposed to more germs with more flights.
Well, it was just maybe I was a bit stressed and run down a little bit too, so my immune system wasn't up to scratch either. So that's what possibly is too. So
you didn't catch it from me because I didn't get sick at all. So
no, not at all. So that's where we went. And also, Josh, when you told me about the Christmas Story house. We'll get back to the actual location.
Yes.
You told me about the Christmas Story house. And here we go. Are you ready for some information? I've already told you this, but I haven't told all our listeners yet. And that is, I'm from Australia, and the Christmas Story movie is not a thing in Australia. For the simple reason is, here mostly it's winter. You're indoors the whole Christmas day pretty much, and so it plays. And I've seen it here because I've spent 2 Christmases here now. It plays like over and over and over and over on Christmas Day, over and over and again. And it doesn't happen in Australia because we're predominantly outside because it's summer. You see, so we're outside, we're playing games, what you do in summer here on your summer camps, that's what we do during Christmas time. So we don't see, I've never actually seen the Christmas Story movie until I came here. Even now, because of Christmas Day, I help out a lot with my in-laws, etc., and help my mother-in-law cooking because I love cooking. Mm-hmm. So, Josh, I still have not seen from start to finish in its entirety. I've seen bits and pieces, and I've put it together like a jigsaw puzzle in my mind, but I've never actually sat down, Josh, and watched from the start to the finish of the Christmas movie.
You got to do it, Craig.
There you go.
But the nice thing about the Christmas Story movie is that it's sort of vignettes. It's a very easy movie to kind of jump in and jump out of, and that's why it's a perfect marathon sort of movie. Yeah. So you could like watch a piece of it, step out, watch a different piece of it. They're almost like little vignettes because I believe the Christmas Story is based on a set of short stories that that was put together. And we took the Christmas Story house. There's actually a tour with a physical tour guide. But before we get there, I just need to say that the Christmas Story may be one of my top favorite holiday movies, right up there with Christmas Vacation. And this movie was actually made in the 80s when I was a child. So I also have a great deal of nostalgia connected to this movie because it's built in my core memories. I think I saw it in the theater when it came out.
Exactly. Well, that's what the tour guide said as well, that everyone can relate to this movie in some way because everyone's either had a father like that or knows a father like that. For instance, everyone's had the mother like that or knows a mother like that. The brothers and the relatives and the friends, exactly the same. So it was a very relatable story, apparently.
Yes. And so one of the things that's amazing about the Christmas Story house location is they kind of took over I wouldn't say a whole block, but several houses within the area. And what makes this movie location so special is that most movie locations, when you have an exterior of a building, that's all that's really in the movie. And the thing that's special about the Christmas Story house is that when they scouted the location, they saw the house, they went in the house, and the director was like, we need to film in the house as well. So that's why it feels, I believe, so authentic, is because this is actually a American home. You know, it's I believe the movie takes place, I think, in the 1930s or 40s.
40s, yeah.
Probably 40s. And when you walk in there, it is like stepping back in time.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. And this is one thing I was going to say as well, as opposed to other movie or show-based locations, such as New Mexico with Breaking Bad, for instance, that the owner doesn't like anything about, anything about the show business stuff and hates people walking past and taking photos. These guys have bought this house and not transformed it, but literally refurbished it to what it exactly looked like in the movie, and then opened it up for tours. They've bought the house across the road. They've gutted the house across the road as well, and that's your what do you call it? Where you go into a gift shop. Yep. You know, you go into, you buy your gifts and stuff, and buy your tours in the shop across the road. All the people up and down the street, they don't mind that the street's parked out like every single day with cars. It's literally parked out, even though the house next door as well, that's part of the movie. There was like 3 or 4 houses in that one group that were part of the movie that have been bought out and are actually used as like a literally living museum. So that's what I loved about it. Fully
embraced it. The person that bought it must have been a fan. It is funny because back when it was purchased, and I believe it's for sale again.
It is.
You go there, there's a
undisclosed amount.
Oh, interesting.
I've looked it up. Undisclosed amount.
So maybe you just need to make an offer.
Yeah.
But when it was bought, I believe, by the current owner, it was bought on eBay.
Yeah, in 2002.
2002.
Yeah, there you go. 2002.
Yeah.
It bought on eBay from the current owner.
That's not surprising because that's like sort of the heyday of eBay, when eBay was just really, everybody was using eBay.
Well, funnily enough, too, because when I did some research on it, it didn't even say eBay, though. It said an auction website. So, Josh, let's talk about our experience then with the Christmas Story house when we got there.
So we purchased tickets for the tour. I believe it was like $35, I believe.
Yeah.
And the lady saw our setup. They saw our cameras with our tripods.
And you microphoned up and everything else.
And she was like, alert, alert, alert. These people are going to shoot
bell
video.
Went off. Yeah.
And she said, you can take photos in the house, but you can't take video. And, we accepted it. We accepted it, even though I was a little bit like, wah, wah.
Yeah, you were.
But then the tour started with our lively tour guide. I can't remember the name of the individual.
I can't think. I remember him telling us his name. He said in the start of the tour guide too, and he said, like, this is my name. If you really like this tour, etc., then this is my name, and this is how you spell it. If you really didn't like this tour, then this is my name, and gave someone else's name and spelled it differently. So
I don't remember his name, but let's just call him Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny.
He seems
Kenny
like
sounds
a Kenny.
good. He did seem like a Kenny.
And a great guy. He was retired. And he sort of shared his story at the end of the tour, saying, I was retired and I was just kind of sitting home doing nothing. And his wife told him, you need to get out of the house. So he's doing these tours in his retirement.
Yeah.
And what was the first thing he said to us during the tour? Remember?
He looked straight away. He looked straight at us because I still had my camera in hand, etc. And he looked straight at us and said, I do believe we have some vloggers in the house. And he used the word vloggers.
I was
in the house.
Impressed that he used the word vloggers.
65, 70-year-old guy saying, we have some vloggers in the house.
I'm guessing he's run into a few vloggers in the past.
I dare say. But then he said to us as well, he goes, look, guys, I'm happy for you to video anything you want, just don't video me. And you lit up. Your face lit up like a lamp in the a lamp in the front window. That's how it lit up. Like you went, yes.
Yeah, I was like,
of course we're not going to video this guy because he was very lively and absolutely. If he would have been on camera, we would have had him on camera. But we were allowed to still film inside the house.
I was like, no problem, Kenny.
Yeah.
Why do you think he didn't want to be filmed? Was it a personal reason, or did he not want the other tour guides to like steal his jokes?
Maybe a bit of both, a bit of A and a bit of B.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a little bit shy still, although he didn't seem shy because he was so
shy.
out there. No, but yeah, maybe that, or maybe the fact is that he didn't. Their rule. Excuse me, I'm still got my cold. Maybe the rule itself is that you can't video, but he said you can video, just don't video me, so it doesn't look like we broke the rules under his direction.
Oh, gotcha. That could be. So, and you know what? We appreciate it because I believe we were the only ones that tipped him, which was sad.
Yeah,
he did such a great job.
Yeah,
but
and I always tip here, Josh, especially when it comes to tour guides.
Oh, yeah.
Good tour guides, especially good tour guides, especially. I mean, I'm not used to the tipping thing. We don't tip in Australia, even if we go on a tour in Australia, we still don't tip. It's not a thing. Tipping's not a thing in Australia, but I've learnt the tipping sort of ways here in the US.
Well, yeah, he gave the tour with such heart. He had personal stories connected to it. You know, the fact that he's using his retirement, like he didn't have to do it. I like the guy. He deserved it.
An ex veteran as well. So thank you for his service as well.
Love that.
But what I loved as well, Josh, is when he was talking about things, he would stand up, very proud, to get everyone's attention. No one. We had a big group there, and he had everyone's attention the whole time. And then he would talk you through bits of parts of the movie, and even try and say the words word for word what they said in the movie, and then show you where they were, how it was. I will say this though, Josh. I did speak to my father-in-law about it when I got home, and he is a big fan of this movie, like huge fan of this movie, right? When I first came over, he said to me, he asked me, one of his first questions, have you seen this movie? And I said, no. He said, you got to watch this movie. I watch him laugh every Christmas day now as he sits there, and next to me he'll just chuckle in his chair because the movie's on and there's some part that he really likes, right? So I said to him when I got back, I said, I learned a few things about the Christmas movie. He goes, oh, what did you learn that I don't already know? And I said to him, well, you know the Fragile box? And he goes, yes. I said, well, outside, when you see the Fragile box outside, it says this end up.
Yeah.
But then when it's inside, it says his end up, like the T has been cut off. And he's like, oh, I didn't notice that. And I said, yeah, it has. I said, you don't want to know why? He's like, why? Because it couldn't fit through the door. They actually had to cut off that part of the box to fit the box through the door. I mean, if you can't get any more realistic than that, Josh, let's be honest, that is pure realism. It wasn't made in a sound studio. Yes. It wasn't made to fit. It was just exactly how it is. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we did learn a lot of some of the behind the scenes parts of the movie. Another one was when he's outside across the street with the neighbor. The neighbor comes and looks at the leg lamp through the window. And first of all, the neighbor is I believe the director of the movie. So that's he put himself in the movie.
That's cool.
But he was also wearing, I believe, a Miami Dolphins hat. The Miami Dolphins didn't exist in the 1940s. Love that.
That was really cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, I love that stuff. So inside the house, he in the main living room area, he kind of gave us some history. And then he just let us go. I love that.
Oh, yes. He said, and he said as well, I'll let you guys go. Take whatever photos you want. Take whatever video you want. Touch anything you want, he said as well. So Josh, of course, straight away, Josh found the bowling ball. Yeah. Sits on the couch with the bowling ball and puts it in his lap. So I'm getting that. I've got an eye for detail, Josh. So guess what? One of the first things I saw was the power outlet next to the actual Christmas tree itself. That was like there's 15 power outlets onto the one power outlet.
Yeah.
So I saw that straight away.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the lamp in the front window. That's a given sort of thing. But then, Josh, you got the BB gun too that was underneath the Christmas tree. You got that up, so we could touch everything.
Yeah, that was really cool. The other part too, it's sort of interactive. You go upstairs and there's a phone upstairs, and if you remember, Ralphie said some inappropriate words, and he said, and Ralphie lied, and he said that he learned that word from the neighbor kid. And so you pick up the phone and you get an earful from the neighbor kid's mother.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that part from the movie.
I do.
You do? Okay.
I do.
Yeah. And that was fun and interactive. But yeah, everything is set up just like the movie. I started actually rewatching it last night. Pretty darn cool. Then when the tour was done, you said you walked across the street, there's a museum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's
A
actually
walk-in museum.
Yeah, there's actually like artifacts. There's one of the real Red Ryder BB guns that was screen used.
Yes.
There were
that's right. What's
costumes. There was fan art that was sent in all around the world. That was really,
up on the
really
walls.
neat.
That was really cool.
Yes.
That was really cool.
So the museum was great.
Yep. And then you walk outside as well, and you've got the truck, the fire truck thing that was there as well, along with the pole, the silver pole. Now, I'll admit, I was not even going to touch this thing because the amount of people that would have licked this one pole that was standing there is just insane. I don't think you licked it, Joe. I think you came very close, but you didn't actually lick it. Thank goodness for that.
I was too scared.
But again, one of the things he told us, he was so good, our Kenny. He was so good. He said to us, in the movie, he said there was a pole, etc. as well, but obviously it wasn't that cold for his actual tongue to stick. Yeah. And if it was, they would have done it because back in those days as well, there was no such thing as the child labour and all. They would have just done it. They would have just chucked these kids in there. These kids were working 10, 12 hours a day and not even caring. But so what they did, Josh, he said that they bored out a very small hole from where his tongue was going to be placed. And then they put like a vacuum cleaner on the other end of the pole. So when his tongue touched the pole, the vacuum actually stuck his tongue. So it was a vacuum stuck to his tongue to the pole. So he still, when he leant back, that's not CGI or anything. No. That's a real tongue stretch right there because his tongue was stuck to the pole thanks to the vacuum. How clever is that? That's pretty ingenious for those days as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I knew that fact. I think I watched it behind the scenes, but I didn't know that he shared a story about how that kid, the kid that played Fleck. Can't remember. Flick? Is it Flick? Fleck. Anyway, that kid, he was the biggest prankster on the set.
Yes.
So they were doing that scene. He had his tongue, vacuumed to that pole, and then the director called for lunch and just left him there
and left the vacuum on. That's right. Because and when we say pranks, we're talking when they stay in their rooms and stuff. We do we call it knock and run. What do you call it here?
Door ditch.
Door ditch. He did door ditches on like everyone's door in the hotels that they were staying. This is after hours, of course. At the time, doing all this random. They were chucking water balloons out the windows at people. Like lots of different pranks. So that was very clever. I thought too. The director said, "Cut, everyone go to lunch," and then they left the vacuum on. So
that's so funny. And we have to say, this is a podcast led by our location-based games of geocaching, munzee.
Yeah,
there was a geocache there, and it was a virtual geocache, and you just had to answer a few questions about the house. And then there was also an adventure lab there, which is also sort of a virtual geocache experience where you answer questions. It's a separate app, but connected to geocaching. And we got 6 smileys right in the neighborhood. Plus, the adventure lab had a bonus physical cache. So we actually got 7 geocaches in this location.
Yeah. It was so cool. That was so cool for me. And then, of course, if you want to stay there, Josh.
I wanted to
stay in the house.
I wanted to. I looked into it.
Stay in the actual house.
Yeah, they're Airbnbs.
But how much are they?
One night at the Christmas Story house was, I think, around $600.
Yeah, $600 and something for a night.
And then the Bumpus house next door, that was more reasonable. I considered it was roughly around $250 at the Bumpus house.
The Bumpus house, that was different. But if you're going to spend that, you might as well just spend the extra. If you're that much of a fan, you'd spend it.
Yeah, you got to stay at the Christmas Story house. Way better than the Bumpus house. And in the Bumpus house, they have those wild dogs that just,
I know. So that was our Christmas Story location.
Yeah. So did you enjoy it, even though that you haven't seen the movie in its entirety?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because the parts that I have seen, obviously they're extremely popular, and so I love, Josh. I'm like a lot of people where I love to go and visit a location, either movie location, TV location, movie sets, that sort of stuff, and anywhere, especially where or anything that's happened in real life. So there's other movies out there that are based on a true story, for instance, and so I love going to those locations where the true story actually took place. So I'm that kind of guy. I've actually got a list on my geocaching page of geocaches being placed for the purpose of the movie location. So there you go.
That's really cool. Another thing I was going to say too is just in that block, There's a restaurant right there, right across the street.
Oh, there is too.
We didn't
eat there.
No,
it was
we
too,
already
too
ate.
early for us still.
And then the gift shop was huge. It was an epic gift shop. I mean, anything and everything you would think of or want Christmas Story was in there, as well as some stuff from the vacation movie, Christmas Vacation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could buy the Fragile box. The actual Fragile box was like $600. If the full, I'm talking full Fragile box, you could buy that. You could buy the lamp itself.
Yeah.
What did you buy when you were there? You bought some.
I bought the not the bunny suit, but the slippers. The bunny slippers, the pink bunny slippers. And bunny Craig, slippers, I didn't tell you this. I brought them home. I put them on. Goliath goes wild over bunnies in general. He saw those on me and he growled like he was gonna kill my feet. He was like, he was so scared. He was scared of those pink bunny slippers. It was so
poor
cute.
Little Goliath.
It was so cute. It was really funny.
Well, I got myself obviously a little magnet. Oh, I get my magnets everywhere I go. So I got myself a magnet, and it's the actual like the lamp magnet.
Yeah.
I got my father-in-law. I had to get him because that's one of his favorite parts of the movie is the lamp with the fragile, and what's he say? It's gorgeous. He says it's gorgeous, and so I got him a Christmas stocking with it all on that flashes lights and stuff, and it says it's gorgeous, but it's fragile, and it actually says fra like space G space Lee like fragile.
That's French. That must be French.
It's French. Yeah, so I got him that. He's over the moon with it. I tell you, he loved it. And then my mother-in-law, she loves the part where who was it? His little brother gets dressed up in that the suit, and he can't put his arms down. So I got her one of those as an ornament for the Christmas tree ornaments. And again, it's one of her favorite parts of the movie because obviously she laughs the most at that part of the movie. And so I got her that. She loved it. So yeah, it's great. That's the sort of souvenirs that I obtained as well.
Awesome. Yeah,
I got a little Ralphie as well, a little Ralphie squishy thing. What do you call them?
Oh, like a plush.
A plushie, yeah, plush. I get a little Ralphie plush as well because my wife loves these plushy things. I don't get it, but anyway. Well, it's sitting on our lounge at the moment.
It sounds like the Christmas Story house is a treasure. You got to stop by if you're in Cleveland. But then, I was excited about this.
Well, you were so excited, we actually went to the wrong place first.
We did. So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland. I've seen pictures. It looked awesome on the website, and I use Waze for navigating, which
I use
guided me in the wrong direction. I put it in. It was like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Archives and Library. That sounded right. That sounded like that's got to be it, right?
Wrong.
It took us to some community college. Now, granted, we came in on Saturday and we were in this parking ramp, and we
went up and down. We went there twice, Josh. We went around it twice.
I know.
Around the building twice, driving.
There was nobody there. And we're like, look at the website. Is it closed? And we're looking at the website. No, it's not closed. What's going on?
And then I looked at the website. I actually looked up the website, and I said, Josh, this doesn't look anything like it. Look at the beautiful architecture, the pyramid at the front of this building. This is nothing like that. And so then I did the research. I went, Josh, it's actually right over near the water, a few miles off. So we rerouted and went over, and it started to rain, of course, like it does.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing because we were outside quite a bit.
Could have held off so we were to walk inside because I went in and I was drenched.
That's true. But what I mean, perfect timing, we got to film all the stuff we needed to outside the Christmas Story house without rain.
True.
And then we're like, oh, perfect. So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is what you think it is. It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's an area that you can see all the inductees, but it's a museum. It's a rock and roll museum.
6 levels, Josh. 6 levels we went on.
We spent almost 4 hours in there.
Yeah.
I could have spent more time. I would go back.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, easily.
Yeah. So do you want to share just a little bit of how it was set up?
Yeah, of course. So you basically, before you walk in, there's that big sign that says, what's it? Oh, I can't even think what it says now.
For those who love
long live rock.
Oh, long live
rock.
Rock
and of course,
and roll.
Long live rock and roll. And of course, Josh is like, oh, damn, it's raining. I wanted to get a photo because you get a photo everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. But we didn't get a photo till we walked out. So there's a big sign there at the first, one of those big self-standing signs. Yeah. And then as you walk up, you see the big pyramid of glass.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous. We walk in all soaking wet. But tickets themselves, $35 for adults and $25 for youth as well. You can either pay for it there as you walk in, or you can prepay them on the app. And we got the app up straight away, Josh. We prepaid on the app. And you book in, when you book online, you actually book for a time to walk in as well, so they don't over. But I dare say you've got no issues with the time framing because you can stay there for as long as you want.
Right.
So if you book for, say, 10 a.m. to walk in, then you can stay there until close, that sort of thing. But there's 6 levels.
Yeah, and I really love a museum that when you walk through it makes sense, right? Some museums you go to and you're just like kind of like wandering room to room and there's no like rhyme or reason. This one, it made sense. This is why later on, when we talk about going through the ship, same thing.
Same thing.
This one is like start at the bottom and work your way up, and then it makes sense. Like
it does.
It makes sense. It kind of, you're supposed to experience it in a certain order. I don't know what it is about my personality. I don't like the randomness of like not knowing, well, should we hit this first or should we hit this later?
You're one of those rare people that like sequential adventure labs.
I don't.
I know.
But I understand it.
If they're made for a purpose, then it's understandable. But this one here, we went through on the ground level, which is actually the second level.
Oh,
when we
really?
went in. Yeah, you didn't realize we went down first. So you go into the level.
Oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you go in the level, and the second level in which we're on, that's the entry level and the exit level. It had the cafeterias, it had the gift shop, stuff like that too. So that's just your entry and exit level. Yeah. But it was quite large. It also had a live stage there too. So that was pretty cool. So people imagine being like an artist, and getting asked to perform on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stage.
I looked at their website. There actually is live music every day.
Every day they've got live music there.
But my favorite level was level 0, the first one we went to. That was my favorite.
So you go down the escalator.
Yeah, you walk down and you walk, again, sequentially. You walk through basically the history of rock and roll. And they go all the way back and they talk about many of the influences, and then all of a sudden I see the glorious Elvis Presley room.
Well, it has to be there. I mean, and there's some different rooms. And this is the thing that what I enjoyed as well is that, yes, there's a rhyme or reason to the tour. Like you go down first and there's that whole level at the bottom, level 0 they class it. But there's different rooms in which you don't have to follow the path when you're down there. So you can spend more time like Josh did in the Elvis Presley room. Then they've got the Beatles room as well, which I really loved.
Oh, yeah.
But all the people on display down there are actually in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That is the start of the tour where everyone is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think it's called the Armit Ertgen Main Exhibition Hall.
That person must have gave a lot of money.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I told you this when we were down there because they could have started the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Elvis, right? And again, I am a big Elvis fan. But they really the early parts of it. They shared, the blues and the country influences that influenced rock and roll. So
rock and roll,
Elvis Presley's known, the tagline for him is the king of rock and roll. But he isn't really the pioneer of rock and roll. He borrowed from so many influences, country and blues. And I just love that the museum acknowledged those artists. What were the true roots of rock and roll? So I love that.
Exactly. So this level as well, it featured some films, it featured videos. You could even remember the interaction that we could even do. You could actually sit in a sound booth and play. They had what I loved. They had one-hit wonders, hit wonders in these booths. So you could sit there, and there was like several different booths, so you didn't have to wait in line. It was always one open, and you could sit there, put headphones on, and listen to the old one-hit wonders that you don't realize that they actually are a one-hit wonder. Yeah. Like I listen to MC Hammer, for goodness sake, you can't touch this. That's a one-hit wonder. You don't realize.
Right. Right. You mentioned the Beatles area. That was a real highlight for me. We have the organ down there that was used to create the song "Strawberry Fields." We had the when the Beatles came in 1964. You have their outfits that they wore, I believe, when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show down there.
Yeah.
And then in the Beatles area, so Peter Jackson recently created, pulled together all the archival footage of the Beatles recording the Let It Be album.
Yeah.
And it was called Get Back. And I saw that on Disney Plus. But you could walk back into this room, and we sat there for probably 20 minutes.
Because 20 minutes we sat there for and watching this.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, like, he's breaking up to 3 different screens or 4 different or 5 different points of view, and you're able to like do it in this panorama of video. It was so I was geeking out on that.
I know. And again, because I'd never seen it. I haven't seen the show on Disney Plus, and so I was there going, "What? They just." I remember seeing some bits and pieces of them doing the recording on the rooftop. But I didn't realise that the impact it actually had at the time, where they didn't get any permission to do it all. They had loud speakers blaring throughout the whole city, and people would literally just stop and stare on the up at the rooftop from the ground level. And they had a camera guide going down there and walking with the police officer that come up to try and knock on the door, and then he couldn't get entry to begin with, and then they're saying, what's the rules and regulation in regards to this noise? Meanwhile, they're up there rocking away and get back to where you once belonged. Like, it was great. I loved it because again, I hadn't experienced that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then on that ground level, it walked all the way through like the hippie area. Then you walk through, and it's like the grunge of the Seattle sound. Like, it's really like a timeline of musical influences. I could have spent a lot of time on level 0, but then we made it.
That's where we spent the most time. I do believe was on level 0. But again, it is like a pyramid too. Remember, so the level 0 is the biggest level in terms of size and expansiveness, and then it gets smaller as it goes up.
I didn't
in terms
think
of
of
the
that.
actual rooms.
That's really interesting. I didn't think about that.
You think about it now because you remember what it was like at the top.
Just one little tiny room. That's funny.
Exactly.
Then we went to level 2, which was the garage. And it was
the garage. That was interesting.
Yeah, it's like this idea of like all bands kind of start in this small like garage band. But you walk in there and you can play instruments. You can play a bass. You can play a drum kit. Very interactive.
And there was kids playing them everywhere, and adults alike as well. But yeah, very interactive. What I enjoyed though too is if you like me, and that is you haven't picked up an instrument in your entire life, you could stand there, pick up a guitar, press the play button on the screen in front of you, and it teaches you how to play like a random guitar, like the basics, of course. But it can teach you this finger doing this finger doing this, and kids were doing that like literally intently watching, and they go dung 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 dung. And I thought to myself, wow, this is so cool. So it's not going to be, if you don't know how to play, you don't have to know how to play.
No.
That the whole thing is just to get you interactive and get you in there and immersive into the actual experience.
Yeah. And speaking of immersive, we created something on that level.
We did.
We made a band sticker. So there was a little kiosk, a couple areas where you could create your own band logo and sticker.
Just before that, though, Josh, can I say this?
Yeah.
We walked out of this garage place and we saw all these random stickers all over the ceiling, all over the walls. What's your first words, Josh?
I was like, I should have brought. Did I say I should have brought our sticker? Didn't I say to stick on the wall? I should have brought
our sticker. You stick on the wall.
And then we discovered.
But then we saw this kiosk.
Yeah, we could make all those stickers were created in that location
for free.
Yeah, for free.
You didn't have to pay for them.
Yeah, so great. You got to pick like your colors and your font, and then it printed right out. And one of the stickers, maybe I'll have to take a picture and we could put it on the show notes. It's on my luggage because I put all my stickers on my luggage.
Of course. Yeah, because you get 2 stickers, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
each time. Yeah, I like that.
And we stuck one to the wall, just like everybody else.
On the wall. That's right.
The wall.
That garage was pretty cool though.
Yeah. And then we went up.
But again, it was a smaller location, so you can think about it now. You realise.
Yeah.
But then we went up again to level 3, and level 3 is actually the Hall of Fame itself. Yeah.
So the Hall of Fame area, there was a smaller room that you walk through, and it was an exhibit of that year's Hall of Fame inductees, and the one that's coming to my mind for 2023 or 2020. Was it 2022? I don't know.
The...
But Dolly Parton, she had.
She's 2022.
Okay, so yeah, and they just announced the 2023. Then
Yeah.
So you walk through and you can see. Oh, and also I remember Lionel Richie was also inducted. Inducted last year as well. So you walk through, but then there's another little kiosk where you can nominate.
This was cool.
You can nominate who you think should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that is not yet in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And that nomination actually goes towards a list that came up on the wall, a live list with all the votes up on the wall as well, which is really, really cool. But what I like, Josh, as well, is that you went past the nomination booth before you went past the wall. So the wall and what the nominations on the wall doesn't impact your decision making in regards to who you want to vote for.
Right. And so, are we going to tell him who?
Yeah.
Yours
of course.
Was yours a joke, or do you really think he should be inducted?
100% think he should be inducted. 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
He's like a one-hit wonder, man.
Yeah, I know. But in saying that, like when people understand, people are going, who did he vote for? Let's string on a little bit further. So let's just string them on, like so they can try and think to themselves, who did Craig vote for? So yes, he was a one-hit wonder, but they had other artists in there who are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, such as Run DMC. You know, they did a lot for the actual rhythm and the music making. Now, to this day, this guy who I voted for, he's still getting paid big royalty money because of that one song. Now, if you don't think that is just genius idea, imagine that. Imagine, Josh, think of this. You make one geocaching video and then it sets you up financially for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
How would that go? You'd be like, yeah, I need to be in the Geocaching Hall of Fame. You know, like
I don't know if I agree with you because the one song that was the one-hit wonder was a sample. He sampled from Queen.
Yeah, it was a good sampler too.
Are you going to tell him?
I voted for none other than and not Queen. No, it was Vanilla Ice.
Ice, baby.
I think the reason why I voted for him, just to be honest with you, is because he was my very first growing up. You know, it's a symbolism. He was my very first love of music.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He was my very first album that I purchased when I was a teenager. Yep, my very first album I purchased was Vanilla Ice. I had my hair, Josh. I had my hair with a little dye. I dyed the front of my hair, just that little like,
blonde spot.
I got the same wispy part, the little blonde spit. And I had my eyebrow. Like,
what?
I trimmed my eyebrow. Oh yeah. Look at this. I'm even rocking the signs, Josh. See, Vanilla Ice. I can even rock the signs on both hands.
Have you ever seen him in concert?
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
He came to Australia on his Australian tour. I went out there first I heard of it, and I had to. Back then there was no internet,
okay.
So I got a bus. I got a bus for a 45-minute bus ride into town, into the one music place in town where I could purchase a ticket. I purchased that ticket, Josh, for $35. I still have that ticket because I didn't go. Oh, go with me. But I still have the ticket, honestly.
Craig.
And everyone has it. You know, I'm not sure everyone. I have a little box, like a childhood box that I keep, and it's the only box that travels everywhere with me. And I still have that ticket. The original Vanilla Ice ticket is in that box, Josh.
Craig, we have to fix this. Like, we need to focus on seeing him in concert. I think last couple years, he was on this like I Love the 90s tour with like Salt and Pepper and like some of these
that
other
would be heaven.
Naughty by Nature, like Hip Hop Hooray. Oh.
Yes.
And he was a part of that tour. So we got to rectify that, and we got to go somewhere where you can see Vanilla Ice, and we got to make it right.
Well, you know what, Josh? I should do this. Because I filmed me voting for him as well. I filmed that and put it on my Instagram. Yeah. I follow him on Instagram as well. I tagged him on Instagram. Maybe, Josh, I'll get all these little clips together of me filming him, like voting for him. I send him the photo of the original ticket and with a little story saying, you know, I'm just an Aussie guy and I did all this and I couldn't make it because no one would drive me the 2 hours. It was 2 hours to go to Sydney. For that time, I didn't live in Sydney. So 2 hours, I couldn't drive and I've still got the original ticket. Maybe. Just maybe, he may say, "Oh, this is my next tour, or whatever.
Yeah.
Here's some tickets."
We gotta make that right. All right, we gotta move on.
Anyway, move on. It's been 44 minutes already.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got a lot more to go. This episode might be a little bit long, but that's okay.
Maybe.
You know, our last episode, I noticed that our last episode was under an hour. So
just 59 minutes.
It was perfect.
It's under an hour.
But I voted for the 70s band America.
Yes.
And if you don't know who America is, you know, they're not a one-hit wonder. If you do America's greatest hits, you're like, I know these songs. But their most popular, famous song, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, felt good. And when I voted for them, they were on the top 100 list. That was other people had voted for them.
Yeah, and again, that's what I said before. I love how you didn't see that list until you did your votes.
Yeah, didn't want it to influence you.
Exactly. That was really cool. But there's a lot of people on that one top 100 list that we were surprised they actually weren't in the Hall of Fame yet. Mm-hmm. You know, let's be honest. So that was really, really cool.
Level
now,
4.
There's rules though for nominations.
Oh,
there's rules though for nominations. Just to let people know that you can't just nominate, every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there. You've actually got to. And the main rule is it's got to be 25 years since their actual recording,
their first
commercial
album,
recording.
Yeah.
Or 25 years since their first album.
Yeah.
So 25 years ago, they must have had their first album. So, yeah.
Yep. We got to go to level 4.
Yeah,
which had
get up there.
It had a kind of a replica of Pink Floyd's The Wall. And then right behind it was like a rest area. We didn't really spend much time there. But then we realized, I don't remember what it was called, but it was the last thing we did. And it was probably the coolest thing we did. Do you remember what it was called? It was like this rock and roll something experience or
something experience. Yeah, it was the inductee experience. I think it was inductee experience.
So you go into this room and you're sitting in this little small-ish theater, and there's a bazillion speakers. A bazillion speakers. And they show you performances of when people get inducted. Like every time there's an induction ceremony, they have like a full-out concert.
Full-on concert.
And like the artists that were influenced by the artist that's being inducted, like they're there playing along with them. Yeah. And there's lights and there's smoke, and it makes you feel like you're actually at the concert.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
We had to wait for it because we were too late for the first showing, the first session. So we waited another 45 minutes. We went downstairs, grabbed a bite to eat, come back up, and we were first in line to get right in there. What I loved about it too is that it's kind of close to you as well. Yeah. It's not a big room. It's a semicircle type room. Yep. But they had the big screen at the beginning. They had 2 small screens, Josh, that used to slide in and out from the actual big screen to make it like wider and then back thinner again, or have 3 different things happening at the same time. So you got like Prince playing a guitar on one and then someone else singing on the other. And it was amazing. The sound and then the lighting, when the lighting flicked on you as well, you could feel the warmth of the lights. That's what I loved about it too. Yeah, it was very immersive.
Yeah, it made you feel like you were at an induction ceremony concert. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was on level 4, and then we went up. It's a spiral staircase, very thin spiral staircase to level 5 because it is the point of the pyramid.
Yeah, it was kind of getting weirder as you went up. But there was I just remember a Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails display of him a mannequin of him covered in mud. To represent Woodstock 99, and then they showed the clip on the screen. It was very small up there, but there was just more, I don't know how to explain it, like more niche,
Yes, there's 4 screens, and each 4 screens would play at different times. Yeah. So you could literally walk around if you wanted to and sit down, but it's kind of small compared to the others. It was only one room. That's all it was. And you were saying about the Woodstock and stuff. I said to you when we were sitting down, I said, the only Woodstock I know, Josh, is Geo Woodstock. I can't see mud thrown around at Geo Woodstock. Can you? No.
Geo Woodstockers are much more behaved than that.
Yes. And if you didn't know, if you're not into geocaching, Geo Woodstock is just a big gathering of people that are geocache related. So it's a mega event. Yeah.
So, Craig, what was your favorite parts of? I've kind of already referenced some of my favorite parts. What was your favorite parts of the?
I kind of referenced mine as well. So my number one was the actual immersive experience itself. As I said before, it felt like you actually being in the audience while they're playing right there on stage. And we're talking about not just things that happened yesterday. As we're talking about Prince, we're talking about Chuck Berry. You know, all those ones as well. They were all there. That was really immersive. And I loved actually creating our band stickers, to be honest with you, and being part of it by sticking them on the wall. Also, I was looking around the walls, and while we were waiting in line to do the stickers, I was looking around the walls, Josh, and I was reading some of the ones out to you. Now, I won't read them on air because some of them aren't really family friendly. Let's just say, because there's no family friendliness. There's no vetting. What people can write. Some were very clever.
Yeah,
what about yours?
Yeah, my favorite was the level 0 was awesome. The Beatles area, as I mentioned, Jerry Lee Lewis. Great Balls of Fire, a whole lot of shaking going on. When I was a kid, I was famous in my small town for doing a lip sync performance of Great Balls of Fire.
I've seen that video, Josh, on Facebook. I'll say I've seen that video.
Let's put it in the show notes because
we'll put it in the show notes.
It's on YouTube. You can see me as a youth doing that, and I start a piano on fire and everything. It's pretty cool. But to see Jerry Lee Lewis's piano down there, and that thing was beat up. If you ever seen how Jerry Lee plays piano, it was really cool to see that. Yeah. And then Michael Jackson's Red Jacket from Thriller.
Oh, that's right.
There's some really cool, a lot of fashion.
And it was his actual red jacket from the movie clip Filler.
Yeah, it was
Thriller. I can't even pronounce it correctly. Yeah, the actual jacket he wore is in there. Under glass and lock and key and stuff was really cool. But Josh, you brought up the memory about you doing the you get what do you call it, your piano thing or whatever that I've seen the video. I'll say now, after seeing your son Jonah. Yep.
Yeah, he looks a lot like me.
Yeah. Poor bloke. Yeah, he really no joke. He does. He is. And he acts a lot like you too, which is really cool because he's really out there, which is awesome as well. So
if you're interested, the 2023 inductees have just been announced. We don't have to get into it, but I just think it's interesting who's coming up. Yeah, so Kate Bush. You know who Kate Bush is? She, and again, Stranger Things, that's Running Up the Hill or whatever. That song, I don't think she would have been in there had not that song blown up.
Yep.
Sheryl Crow, Missy Elliott.
Missy Elliott was a surprise for me, but anyway,
really? Okay. George,
I love her, but
George Michael, Willie Nelson.
See, now Willie, that's one of the ones with Josh we were thinking to ourselves. Why isn't he already in there? But no, he's in there now. Which is
it's because I think that people more think of him just like Dahlia's country.
True,
but I'm sure he's influenced, and he's worked with rock and roll artists throughout the years. Rage Against the Machine, and the Spinners. Yeah. So that's what's coming up.
Now, not including those, there's actually 351 inductees at this time.
Like that, not as many as you think. Like they just do a handful, and I think the Hall of Fame has been in existence since the mid '80s, I believe. So
yeah. And what I enjoyed, Josh, as well, is it's like the Beatles, for instance. Absolutely, the Beatles are in there, but then they're individually. Some of them are in there as well. Not all of them. But, some of them are in there by themselves as well. Like McCarthy and all that, he's by himself.
Are they? I think they might all be in there individually now. I saw Ringo was in there. George Harrison's in there.
I saw George. Oh, yeah, there might be.
I think they're all in there now, individually.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. They're there as a group, but then the separate years go by, and they've been announced individually for their individual inspiration into the rock and roll, which is really cool. Yeah.
All right, then we left.
Moving on.
We left, and we needed to start to make our way eventually to our Airbnb because we stayed at the Airbnb in Cleveland, but we saw a world's biggest thing. If you listen to this podcast, you know how much we love our world's biggest things. At least I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we spotted it.
So does Valerie from Silly America.
Yes.
And we've actually interviewed her on this podcast, and I think it was episode 3 or 4. Go back and have a listen to that one.
I wonder if Valerie's been here. I don't think she has been. I haven't seen any pictures. But it's the world's largest rubber stamp.
Yes. I saw it, and the reason why I saw it, Josh, again, it's because of geocaching. I will admit, I saw it was a virtual geocache, and I thought, "What's this?" Then I had a look at the phone. I went, "Oh, Josh, we have to visit this."
Yes.
Again, it's somewhere where you wouldn't ordinarily go if you didn't know through geocaching or other means.
Yeah.
But there was, and it said the word "free" written. But I loved it because it's actual rubber stamp, like a normal rubber stamp. The word "free" is written back to front.
Yeah.
Like a real rubber stamp.
Yeah, it's a real rubber stamp. I wonder if they would bring in a world's largest ink pad to see if they could actually
to try and do it with like a helicopter or a crane. And no, jeez, now we're going too far.
But
do you know what it was for though? Which I was really surprised.
It's very interesting. You want to go ahead and share?
No, you go.
Oh yeah, it was representing again. I don't. You can look it up yourself, but it was representing the idea of abolition, like the slaves being free and having a stamp that said this person is free.
Is there free? So that's a rubber stamp. That's amazing. So something that's just it looked so like classic big things like
like
it's
silly,
a big thing.
right?
Silly things, you know.
It was serious.
But it's so serious, like meaning behind it, and the reason why it was there. That's what amazed me.
Yeah. And then we got hungry.
We did. We got hungry, and we got a tip as well from one of your mates.
Yeah. So I have a friend. If he's listening, his name's Al. He's from Cleveland. He's Al. He grew up in Cleveland, and you know what? He's proud of his town.
Oh, here we go.
It's a rare thing these days. He's proud of his town.
I didn't even know when you were going to slip this one in.
So
but anyway,
proud of his town, and we were like, Al, where should we eat? And the first place he mentioned, he goes, you need to go to Melt in Lakewood. We're like, Melt? Okay, sounds good. And then I think you looked it up and you're like, Josh, this place is like this is like a grilled cheese place where they just melt all kinds of cheeses and
no, but not just a grilled cheese place. This is a grilled cheese place on steroids.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And so my buddy Al actually knows the owner of this place. And we contacted somebody, and this was just serendipitous.
Mm-hmm.
That Jesse and Scott from the Geocaching podcast, they were coming home from being at baseball tournaments in Cooperstown, New York. And we just happened to be in Cleveland at the same time. So we had dinner with them, and that was the first time that you had ever met them. You've talked to them so many times because their podcast is a call-in show. It's the only call-in geocaching podcast around. The GCPC or Geocaching Podcast, shout out to them. Yes. And so you got to meet them for the first time, and we had some delicious food. And you know what? Before we talk about it anymore, we have a clip.
Oh, we do. Let's go to the clip.
Let's go to the clip. I'm just, my mouth is watering already for how tasty that was. So unique. So unique.
It really was. It really was. I can't believe they actually had macaroni and cheese melt.
Mm-hmm.
And the macaroni and cheese, they made the macaroni and cheese like normal, made it into like a little patty, and then deep fried that patty, and then put that deep fried patty onto the bread, and that bread was delicious. It was thick, and it was
the first thing.
Big shout out, Melt in Lakewood.
Yeah, it's worth it. Look, there are several Melt locations in Cleveland, but Al told me to go to the Lakewood one, so that's where we went, and we had just a lovely dinner, and then can you believe it? We had to get to our Airbnb.
Airbnb at 8:00 at night.
Yeah. And
it was after dark.
Usually we don't talk about our Airbnb experiences very much, but this was so funny because I knew something was going to maybe happen, and I kept it a secret from you the whole time.
You did.
We had to go to the grocery store because we had to pick up some of our favorite snacks. The Triscuits with the olive and cracked pepper.
Yep, that's
the one. We had to get some cheese for it, and I got a pimento cheese spread this time. So tasty. And we had to get some Miller High Life because it's the champagne of beers. Not sponsored, but if you're listening, Miller, we're here. We bring up Miller High Life on almost every episode.
I think I should reach out.
You should reach out.
Anyway, we get to this. It's an old style house, Airbnb.
Nice neighborhood.
Along with a really nice neighborhood, along with all of them in the neighborhood. They're all like real old school houses, which is really nice. They've got the big, thick beams inside the house and whatnot as well. We got there, Josh, and next minute, you said to me, Craig, come here, have a look in the fridge. I went, what? Because I was about to put the beers away in the fridge. I opened the fridge. There was already cans of Miller High Life in the fridge, Josh. What did you do?
So Joan reached out to me, and she was like, hey, I'm going to restock some of the beverages. And she's like, what do you want? She's like, oh, you don't have to do that, but it's nice of you. I like Coke, and I like Mountain Dew, and we do like Miller High Life.
Yeah, there was a 6-pack of cans of Miller High Life in the fridge.
I felt like such a honored guest. So shout out to Joan, if you're listening. Joan in Cleveland.
That Airbnb.
Loved your Airbnb. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then
really cool.
The next morning, we were off to Seneca County to do the pizza trail. And this
Before that.
What?
Before that.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes.
This was like oh my gosh, this is
I've never experienced this
so
before in my
cool.
life. This is another unique thing that I've never ever seen or done, whatever, and it's with you, Josh.
Can I describe it? Because we're sitting on the porch, enjoying
Yeah.
our Miller High Lifes, and then all of a sudden you see something, and you're like, what? You're like,
was
what?
that?
I was like,
What's that?
You were like, what was that? I was like, and then you saw it again. You're like, what the heck? What was that? And I was like, Craig, that's a lightning bug or a firefly.
Yeah.
And you were like, whoa.
I'm like, what? Where? The next minute they started all appearing, you're like, you're educating me. You're like, oh, they live in the ground during the day. They come up at night, and their butts like glow. I'm like, what the heck? I said, what do they look like? So I'm there Googling as well, making sure I want to see what they look like, in the light. And I was blown away. And I said to you, I'd never seen it. We don't have that sort of stuff in Australia. It's just different. That's all it is. Just different. We see it in movies and read it in books and stuff. And we read it in books whereby kids go out with their glass jars and collect a couple and then come and bring them inside their house and they die in the glass jars. But you know what I mean? Like we see that in books and movies, but we don't actually have it in Australia. So there you go. Yeah, first for me.
It was so fun. It was so magical to watch you experience that because, we see them for the first time when we're depending on where you live, when we're 5 years old. And there's we have such wonder even at that age, but it's awesome to see a man in his 40s experience it for the first time. It was just delightful. It was just delightful to watch.
And I will say this because after that night, of course, we went off to Seneca County. I will say, out of my entire trip to Ohio, my number one highlight, and we spoke about this, Josh, in the airport on the way home. My number one highlight, Josh, was when we were driving at sunset through Seneca County, and the fireflies were coming out of all the fields across the road, in the fields, and they were all lighting up in different places. It was so... And you turned off your lights for me a couple of times. I was like, this is magical. Yeah. So for me, that trip, the trip was fantastic in so many different ways, but my number one favorite was seeing all those fireflies in the open fields in Ohio at sunset.
Sometimes it's just the simple things.
It really is. And free. Simple and free.
Yeah, totally.
Apart from the plane trip and the petrol and everything else. And the car hire.
All right. So if you haven't listened to the Seneca County podcast, which was the one before this, episode 10, I would encourage you to pause this, go listen to that whole podcast, and then come back, because then you'll get the sequential order of the whole trip.
That's right. Because after Seneca County, we did a couple of days there, a few days there, and then we're on our way back to the back to the airport.
Yes.
Back to Cleveland.
Back to Cleveland.
Now, can I say this, Josh? Can I talk about this?
Yeah.
We're driving along. Okay. We're driving along.
You could set it up, and then we have a clip.
Yeah. So all I'll say is this: we're driving along and something happened. So listen to this.
Oh, Josh, where are we?
What do you think just happened? You sound so exhausted. You sound frustrated.
Okay,
there was a glimmer in your eye.
No, let me give you a little backstory there for you listeners out there. So we're driving along the actual freeway itself, heading towards Cleveland. I'm there sitting in the passenger seat playing munzee happily. Next minute...
I'm driving.
Josh is driving. Of course, Josh
working
is driving.
hard.
Next minute, I hear this cracking sound as Josh whips his head around and snaps his neck, almost breaks it in half when he sees the duct tape factory of the world.
Yeah, the duct tape factory world headquarters.
Oh.
It was beautiful. It had a beautiful sign. The sign was calling my name, Craig. So what did I do?
So you then had to get off the freeway as quick as possible, chuck a U-turn, and then head back towards the duct tape factory. At the same time, he said, "What do you think about this?" I said, "Okay." You're there barking orders, saying, "Check if there's a tour. Check if Google, Craig, if there's a tour. I want a tour."
And you did.
Yeah, I did.
You did Google and see if there was a tour, and what did it say?
It didn't say there was tours.
There's no tours,
no tours.
It was so inviting. The sign.
By that time, we were already at the entrance and the sign.
Yeah, and then we'd pull up to the duct tape world headquarters. Beautiful landscaping, I might add.
It was, and the sign is gorgeous, and the weather's gorgeous here as well, with the blue skies and everything as well. So it was stunning.
Yeah. And then I was like, I want to talk to a receptionist.
Yeah,
I want to find out what's the down low.
Meanwhile, someone else actually walked in who works for the duct tape factory.
Yeah. You saw them with the code.
She then put the code in to actually get in the door, and I looked and said, Josh, I don't think we'll be able to get in. No matter
So then I had faith.
You did.
And I opened my arms wide, hoping that those doors would open. And then
they did.
Well, not right away.
But almost right away, because the security guard inside, who I say doesn't talk to that many people, was wanting to talk to you and say, what the hell are you doing at the front?
He didn't say it like that. He's like, he was very nice.
He said, can I help you?
Can I help you? And I said, yes, I'm just wondering, it doesn't seem like it, but is there possibly any tours? And what did he say?
No.
Yeah, he said no, but he said there used to be.
Yes.
He said before COVID there were tours.
There were tours, exactly, but now there's no tours
really
now.
Really sad. But then he pointed us that we were in the lobby.
Yeah.
And he pointed, he goes, well, we have a duct tape vending machine.
Josh, if the only workers go in there, why do they need a duct tape vending machine in the front of the lobby, though?
I'm guessing that when they had tours.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Have you ever seen a duct tape vending machine?
No, and I hadn't seen a lot of those duct tape actual, like, art on the duct tape as well.
Oh yeah, they had like
they had gnomes, they had flamingos, they had balloons,
tie dye.
Because
people it's really popular for high schoolers to make their tuxes and their prom dresses out of duct tape, and you can I think you can win a scholarship if you make a amazing duct tape dress. I've seen it on social media.
Or a suit.
Yeah.
Wow. So anyway, I thought to myself, well, Craig, you've got to actually make this stop count. And obviously, you know, looked at the geocaching app, and there was a cache not near it, but kind of near the driveway of it.
Consolation prize. No duct tape tour, but we did find the geocache.
And then Josh got back in the car and found 2 ticks.
Yeah. And that's normal. Or if you're a cacher, and this is the only day I decided to wear shorts, which was actually a good idea.
You know what's worse than finding 2 ticks, Josh?
What?
Not finding 2 ticks until they're dug in.
This is true. They were still crawling.
All right. Thank you so much for everything. We're going to hit the road again, aren't we, Josh?
Yep.
Until you see another duct tape sign.
There's only one. There's only one. It was a disappointment, but I'm still glad we did it, because we got a good story now.
Out of it. And we got a good geocache out of it. So we all got a geocache.
We got a couple ticks.
You got a couple of ticks. I got nothing.
Oh,
thank goodness.
Well, you don't. Have you checked everywhere?
Yes, I did actually.
Okay, good.
But anyway, so then we kept on driving after the duct tape factory, and again you reached out to your mate in Cleveland.
Yeah, reached out to Al, my guide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
my Cleveland guide, and he suggested a couple places to go. And the first place we went, I wish it was open, but it wasn't.
So do I.
I think it was called Happy Dog. Was it
Happy Dog? Yeah, it was
Happy Dog, and it was a hot dog place.
Yeah,
where they have anything and everything that you would expect to put on a hot dog and not expect to put on a hot dog.
You can put cereal on a hot dog. You can put Cheetos on a hot dog.
Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah, whatever you want on a hot dog. They had a plethora of items that you could put on a hot dog.
But it was sadly closed. Yeah. So then we went to the next option, which was Grumpy's Cafe. And I read some of the reviews on this, and I'm really surprised. We came later in the afternoon, but this place, usually there's a wait to get in, because it was voted best breakfast place in Cleveland.
All of Cleveland.
And I believe it.
Yeah. We got there just after lunchtime.
Yeah.
But we did with Denny's at 10 p.m. at night, you have breakfast.
Oh, I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
I tasted some of your biscuits and gravy with the with the egg and the sausage.
Yeah.
It was wasn't it sausage base, then the biscuit, then egg on top of it?
Yeah, so it was actually a what do you call it? Like an eggs Benedict. So it was an eggs Benedict, but instead of having the what do you call it? The muffin and the Benedict sauce, it had the sausage patty, it had the biscuit, it had the gravy sauce. So it was an eggs Benedict with biscuits and gravy combined.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
So good. It was so tasty. Mine was, I had just sort of the basic breakfast, but it was so good. Portions were large. Enjoyed it. I love breakfast. I don't know about you. I love breakfast any time of the day.
Me too. I can eat breakfast all day, any day.
Craig, we still had time before our flight.
I know. So we had to go somewhere else. We had to go next door to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
We saw it. It's the Great Lakes Science Center.
That's right.
You know, we said it on this podcast before. You can't skip the museums. If you're in a new city and you're like, what is there to do? You should look. Is there an art museum? Is there a science museum? Is there a Christmas story house, which also has a museum?
Yep. Yeah. I'm really becoming a fan of these museums, thanks to you, Josh, to be honest with you. And again, like anything, it's not necessarily geocache related. It's more, you know, we didn't get any geocaches. There's no geocaches in the Science Center. There's no geocaches in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But you go there and experience something so new and so fresh and so delightful. So the Great Lakes Science Center it was. The Great Lakes Science Center.
Yeah. And so the features of this were dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
They had dinosaur bones, which is just like, when you see a real dinosaur bone, you're just like, holy cow, this is like millions of years old, and I'm touching it. I'm looking at it.
You stood next to one, Josh, and it was like the same height as you, and I started laughing. And you're like, Craig, what are you laughing at? And I pointed to the bone. I said, it's humorous. Anyway, it's terrible.
So many astronauts are from Ohio.
I didn't realize.
This. And they have the John Glenn Space Center. I believe the actual NASA John Glenn Space Center, I saw it out by the airport. Like it's like a building out there. But there's a museum dedicated to John Glenn. And what I love, they had a real space-used space module.
There. Yeah, like a real one that fall back from space into the water.
Yeah.
That
was fun. And there's a lot of stuff hands-on in this museum. I got to try to land a space shuttle, and I crashed.
That went well.
I crashed, but let's be honest. Like I got a little bit farther than you did. You were like,
that's because I went super hard level and you went child's level.
Oh, that's true. I forgot
there's different levels. There's different levels.
I didn't go child level. I went medium level.
It just sounds better for me if you went child level. But what I loved as well is that there was all these people around that work for the museum in different locations, and they're happy to come over and say, you need to hand anything, and then they start talking to you and gave you like a little guide of what you're looking at, which is pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah, and then I was really excited for you because you had not experienced one of these sort of dome science museum films. In Minneapolis, we do have, it's called the Omni Theater.
Right.
But this was called a dome theater. It's basically the same thing. It's just like a giant screen that is surrounding you. I think 860-degree sphere, half sphere, and you're sitting in the middle of it. And these films are designed for these screens. They make them with special cameras. And I believe the one we saw was called America something? America's Landscapes or
Landscapes, yeah.
I can't remember what it was called, but it was I mean, one of the reasons I love this podcast is like it features it's primarily focused on America, and just like we have so many different landscapes, and this film it reinforced that.
It really did. And it went from anywhere from, because they were talking about Alaska, all the way down through to the actual 48. So 48 states. And I loved all the different looks. Now, Josh, you did warn me because I said to you I'd never been into a dome place like this. We do have IMAX in Australia, the IMAX cinemas. We have those.
Yes.
But this was larger than an IMAX.
Yes,
like
it is.
I looked, tilted my head all the way to my right shoulder and I could see a screen. I tilted my head to the left shoulder and I could see a screen.
Yeah.
But you warned me. You said to me before we walked in, you go, Craig, now I warn you because I've got contact lenses in. Sometimes it's all too much for my eyes and it sort of drifts me off to sleep. So I watched you, Josh.
Oh, yeah.
Within 5 minutes, your eyes were closed.
It's
you woke up. You did wake up after about 10 minutes, but you had about a 5-minute kip.
Oh yeah, it's very stimulating to the eyes, and just like I told you, I said these things like they just like there's so much to look at. It just makes your eyes tired, and really like because the screens go so far back that it's like in your peripheral, right? So
you can't get away.
So
from
you can't look away.
No,
and that's just what makes it so. So awesome.
I was busy. My head was moving the entire time. I was like, oh, look there, look there, look there. I was really busy looking at everything. And again, maybe it's my camera's side of thing because I enjoy filming. Mm-hmm. And that is, I was thinking to myself, well, how did they get that angle there? What sort of camera do they use for this? So I'm actually thinking the back end of it as well at the same time while I was busy. So,
but then
after that as well, we went outside.
Yeah, because connected to the Science Museum, this is right next to Lake Erie. It's like it's butted right up against Lake Erie, and there's an old steamship there, the William Mather steamship, and we kept on calling it, I think should be called the William Shatner steamship.
Yes, I know. I don't know why I call it William Shatner.
Well, it's pretty darn close.
I wanted to talk all the way through it. But but again, Josh, one of the things you loved about the ship, that you loved it the most about the ship, I think.
Yeah, you follow, there's an orange line on the floor, and that guides you. You could probably randomly just like walk through the ship and explore it, but it like sequentially takes you to the front, all the way to the back, to the engine room. And what I love about it is that I know that I saw everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like,
saw
okay, we can leave.
You could.
We can leave. Yep. I saw it all.
I've seen everything.
Exactly. So we followed the orange
across
line.
the deck as well.
Yeah. And there was a guy sort of, in the front and the back sharing a little bit of information about the ship. This is incredible because this ship, I believe, started sailing in like
in the early 1900s.
Like we're talking Titanic time.
Titanic days.
And then it didn't end sailing till 1985.
And the ship was primarily for distribution of iron ore, gravel, that sort of thing. It wasn't actually a personal ship. Like, it wasn't a passenger ship.
No.
It was a container ship.
Yeah, and they just toured through the Great Lakes and loved it.
Except you didn't like no air conditioning in it for Josh.
Yeah, it was a little warm, but it was authentic because it was a hot day.
We did have some Titanic moments on this ship as well, I will say.
It was so beautiful. Go to our Instagram. You can see a picture of us.
You'll see a picture of us.
Yeah, because
you can guess who's going to be Rose and
Yep. Spoiler alert, I'm Rose.
Spoiler. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't me.
So that was it. And then we had to go to the airport, and we found out that your flight was delayed. And you
Cancelled.
Even
totally
worse.
Totally cancelled. And I had to have 2 flights. I had to change my flights. Anyway, I got home. I was happy.
And
I
that's
got
why
home
you
by midnight.
That's why you got crooked.
I got crook. Just CROOC, crook.
Not
crook.
crooked.
I feel a bit crook.
Crook.
No. I'm just feeling crook. I didn't realize that was a saying, but anyway.
Yeah, I did.
Now, we did this thing as well, because we talked about our nuggets for Patreons.
Our nugs.
As well, which there'll be maybe a couple more coming out very shortly for our Patreons as well. But we do also going to do another thing for our Patreons first and foremost, Josh.
Yeah, but then I think everybody could have access at some point.
Everyone's going to access it after our Patreons, but Patreons first.
Yeah, we had an idea because Craig and I have spent now a lot of time in the car together.
Yep.
Like, we fly to an area, but then like we drive around forever, right?
Yeah.
And we thought, gosh, there's so many songs that we listen to in the car. And then we started thinking, like, what if we had a playlist, a Spotify playlist inspired by our travels?
Inspired by our travels, inspired by the podcast. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So we started creating a Spotify playlist.
Yep. And so our patrons will have an opportunity to hear that playlist.
Well, what I'm going to do, Josh, I thought about this too, and I haven't even run this past you yet. So here we go live. And that is, the reason why I say Patreons first is because we're going to do a competition for the Patreons.
Ooh.
Yeah. So what's going to happen is we're going to release this Spotify playlist.
Okay.
And they're going to have, the Patreons going to have 1 week to come back and email us with the song name for each one, and then link that to the episode that it relates to.
Oh, because every song relates to one of our episodes.
Exactly.
One of our 11 episodes.
Exactly. So the person who gets the 100% right, or gets like closest to, is going to win a prize. Now, if people want to become a Patreon to be part of it, how can they do that?
Yeah. If you've been enjoying our podcast, we really appreciate your support. And by supporting us, you're going to help us to create even better content and keep it free for everyone. So consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/treasures of our town.
And we've got 21 now, Josh. We've got 21 Patreons. I'm going to shout out the last 3 for the time being.
Okay.
Tom Beers, Dave Manning, and Jeff Cross are the last 3 that joined up. So 21 in total. That's really cool. Really cool.
Thank you, Tom, Dave, and Jeff, and everybody else who has supported our podcast. You're making this possible. We hope you're entertained. We hope you're informed. And we just appreciate your support.
Exactly. So coming up, Josh, in our next episode, we're actually going to have a conversation about gamifying your travel through Adventure Labs. And we'll have a special interview. So how can people find or contact us?
Feel free to reach out to us at treasuresofourtownpodcast@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
So that's our show for today. Please subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting app. And as always,
may your travels always lead you to the most unexpected and amazing hidden gems around the world. See you next time. Rock on.
Bye.